The black space around the small human scout ship was silent and endless. Rian Cross moved through that silence with careful eyes. He had been on patrol for many hours and had not seen a single light from another craft. His scanners whispered faint warnings of wreckage nearby, and he turned toward the signal. A drifting shadow of broken metal floated near a red dwarf star, its edges glowing like dull embers. It looked like the skeleton of a once great alien vessel, and curiosity pulled him closer. His ship slid beside the wreck and he stepped into his suit. The airlock hissed softly behind him as he entered the alien ruin. The walls were strange, smooth and dark, as if grown, not built. Faint blue lines of energy ran across the panels like veins of light. Each time his boots touched the floor, the sound echoed far into the silent corridors. Rian followed a soft humming sound that seemed to rise and fall like a distant song. It was not from his suit or his ship. It was a voice he could feel. Inside his chest, he held his small light ahead and moved deeper through winding halls where no other life should remain. His heart beat faster as the melody grew stronger and the air felt warmer. The hallway ended at a large door cracked open enough for a single person to pass through. Inside, the room was darker than the halls and smelled of burned metal. A pale silver glow came from the center, and Rian stepped closer. There he saw a figure, small and still, kneeling on the floor. Chains of bright energy wrapped around slim arms and legs. The figure lifted her head, and Rian saw a young alien woman. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes glowed faint blue, and a faint cry escaped her lips. For a moment he froze. He had seen many alien races in his time, but never one like her. The chains pulsed with strange symbols, and every few seconds sparks of light leapt across them. He scanned the room for traps or guards, but found nothing. Only the quiet hum of the chains and the soft breathing of the girls. He looked at him and whispered, "Please help me." The sound reached his ears even through the helmet, and it filled him with a strange pull. He knelt beside her and studied the cuffs. They were locked by an energy field he had never seen. Before his mind worked quickly, he pulled a small tool from his belt and began to test the field each time he touched it. The symbols flared brighter and the humming grew louder. The girl closed her eyes as if in pain. "Hurry," she said, "before they return." Rian asked, "Who will return?" But she only shook her head, and the chains flared again. His tool beeped and a small section of the field flickered. He felt sweat on his brow, though the suit kept him cool. His heart pounded as the thought of alien guards flashed in his mind. Finally, the field weakened enough for him to pull at the cuff with all his strength. The chain snapped with a burst of blue light that lit the entire chamber. The girl gasped, and the hum stopped. She collapsed forward but caught herself with trembling hands. Rian moved to free the other cuffs, but before he could finish, the walls of the ship shook with a low, distant rumble. A warning came from his suit sensors. An unknown craft was approaching. Fast. Rian looked at the girl, her eyes wide with fear. "We must leave now," he said, but she reached for his arm and whispered in a voice filled with both relief and sorrow, "If you break these chains, we are bound forever." The meaning of her words struck him, but there was no time to ask. She gave a faint nod as if accepting a choice already made. Rian pulled at the final cuffs. The last chain broke in a flash of silver light, and the room fell silent, except for the echo of his own breath. The alien girl looked into his eyes, tears forming along her silver lashes, and whispered again, "You have freed me, now we must be one." The ship trembled harder outside. Engines roared and distant alarms began to cry. Rian felt the weight of her words and the danger closing in. He reached for her hand, and together they turned toward the dark hallway, ready to face whatever came next. Rian guided the alien girl through the dark corridor. His small light flickered as the ancient ship trembled around them. Each step echoed like a warning. In the silent halls, the faint blue veins of energy along the walls pulsed faster, as if the ship itself felt their escape behind them. A low hum rose into a sharp tone like a distant alarm. The girl moved with surprising speed, though her legs shook. From long captivity, her silver hair floated around her like threads of light. Rian kept his blaster ready in one hand, and his other hand held her arm steady. He spoke softly, asking her name, but she only whispered later, "We must run now." Her voice carried fear and something deeper, a weight he could not name. The passage twisted downward toward the landing bay, but a sudden jolt threw them against the wall. Lights flickered out, and a violent shiver ran through the deck plates. Ryan checked his scanner. A hostile craft had latched onto the wreck, its magnetic clamps ringing through the metal. A boarding party was cutting their way in. His heart pounded. He had only minutes, maybe less. They reached a wide chamber where broken consoles lay scattered. Like bones, the girl stopped and looked toward a sealed bulkhead. Her eyes glowed faintly. She pointed to a narrow maintenance tunnel. "It will hide us," she said. Ryan hesitated. The tunnel was barely wide enough for one person. But there was no choice. He helped her inside and crawled after them. The metal scraped against his suit, and every sound seemed too loud. From the darkness ahead came a whisper of voices, alien and sharp, a boarding team moving fast. Their footsteps rang through the ship like heavy drums. Ryan held his breath and waited. His light dimmed to a faint glow. The girl pressed her palm to the tunnel wall and closed her eyes. A faint ripple of silver light spread from her hand. The sounds of the soldiers faded. As if the tunnel itself swallowed the noise, Ryan stared in wonder. She opened her eyes and whispered, "They cannot hear us now, but we must keep moving." They crawled until the tunnel opened into a small control room where a cracked viewport showed the endless stars. Ryan could see his own ship a short glide away, but a large enemy vessel blocked the path. Black and angular, its weapons glowing red, ready to fire. His mind raced for a plan. He checked his wrist console and saw that the docking clamp on his ship was locked by a remote signal. The girl stepped closer to the broken console and began to trace glowing lines across the surface. Symbols rose in the air like soft mist. She spoke words he could not understand, and the symbols sank back into the panel. Suddenly his console beeped. The docking lock released. Ryan looked at her in shock. "How did you do that?" She looked at him with calm eyes and said, "We are bound now. Your will and mine share strength." The hallway outside shook with heavy impacts. The boarding team had found the tunnel entrance. Ryan grabbed her hand. "We have to go now." They dashed through the control room to a hatch leading toward the external walkway. A bitter wind of space leaked through tiny cracks. The stars beyond were cold and endless. His ship waded across a narrow bridge of fractured metal. As they crossed the bridge, a blast of red light cut through the darkness. A drone fighter from the enemy ship had spotted them. It fired again, scorching the bridge behind them. Molten sparks rained down. Ryan pushed the girl forward as another blast roared past, barely missing their heads. They reached the far side, and the hatch to his ship opened with a hiss inside. The airlock. Ryan slammed the controls. The hatch sealed, just as another explosion rattled. The hull alarm screamed through the cabin. He guided the girl to the main deck and dropped into the pilot seat. Engines flared as the ship detached from the alien wreck. The enemy craft turned to follow red lights, chasing them through the void. The girl stood behind him steady despite the chaos. She placed a hand on his shoulder and spoke softly. "Do not fear, our bond will guide us." Ryan felt a strange warmth spread through his chest as if her touch joined their thoughts. He gripped the controls and the ship leapt forward into the black, while the enemy closed in ready to strike. The small scout ship sliced through the dark void. Ryan held the controls tight, while alarms flashed red across the panel. Enemy craft stayed close, their sleek black shapes glowing with faint crimson edges. The girl stood behind him, her silver hair moving in the cabin breeze, her calm face a strange contrast to the danger around them. The enemy fired a beam of light that grazed their hull. Sparks of plasma danced across the window. Ryan pulled hard to the left. The ship rolled and dived between fragments of ancient asteroids floating like broken teeth in the endless night. The girl touched the back of his seat and a soft glow spread through her fingers. The engines hummed louder and the ship surged forward faster than its design allowed. Ryan glanced back at her. "Who are you really?" he asked, his voice low. She looked into his eyes with a quiet strength. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I am the last daughter of the House of Cylon. My people guard the old stars, but a dark faction betrayed us. They seek my blood to claim the throne." Her voice carried sorrow like a deep river. Another beam of red fire cut past the ship. Ryan tightened his grip and ducked under a spinning asteroid. Shards of stone scraped the hull. His sensors screamed proximity. "Alerts the enemy was relentless," he asked. "Why were you chained in that wreck?" She closed her eyes and whispered, "My own council feared me. They feared the prophecy that said one from the outer worlds would join with me and bring unity. They locked me away to stop it." Rian felt a chill at her words. He said, "And now you say we are bound." She nodded slowly. "The chains you broke were not only metal, they were vows of life. The one who frees me becomes my heart and protector. Our spirits are one from..." Now until the stars fade, her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. He wanted to speak, but another blast rocked the ship. Warning lights flared, fuel cells draining fast. The enemy craft grew larger in the window, their weapons glowing for the next strike. Ryan swung the ship around a dense cluster of asteroids and killed the main lights. Only the faint glow of distant stars lit the cabin. For a long moment they drifted in silence, engines off, sensors dark. The enemy ship slowed. Searching, Ryan held his breath. He felt the warmth of Lyra near him, her presence like a quiet flame. She whispered, "They will scan for us. We must hide beyond the shadow of the blue moon ahead. If we reach it, they cannot track our life signs." Ryan powered a single thruster and the ship slid into the shadow of a massive blue moon, its icy surface reflecting faint silver light. The enemy cruisers passed by unaware. For now, Ryan released a slow breath and turned to her. "You have changed everything in one night," he said. She looked at him with soft eyes and replied, "The stars chose this path long ago." Before he could answer, a sudden pulse shook the cabin. The scanners lit with a strange pattern, a beacon from deep inside the moon calling them both. The sound was low and ancient, like the heartbeat of a sleeping world. Lyra stepped closer to the window. Her eyes glowed bright. She said, "This place is not dead. It is one of the old sanctuaries of my people. It knows our bond, and it calls us." Rian stared at the moon and felt the pull of the signal echo through his chest. He knew the enemy would return soon, but the beacon promised shelter and answers. He started the engines again, heading toward a hidden canyon on the moon surface. As they descended, the ship lights flickered. The signal grew stronger, like a voice without words guiding them deeper. The canyon opened to reveal a massive gate of stone covered in glowing lines. The ship landed softly on a flat ledge. The gate shone brighter as they approached. Lyra reached out her hand. The stone responded, opening with a sound like distant thunder behind the gate. A dark tunnel led into the heart of the moon, and a faint silver light pulsed from within. Lyra turned to Ryan, her expression both hopeful and afraid. She whispered, "This is where we will learn the truth of our bond, but we must hurry. The enemy will not be far behind." Rian tightened his suit straps, checked his blaster, and followed her into the living stone. The tunnel closed behind them, and the silence of the ancient moon wrapped around them as the silver light called them forward. The tunnel walls shimmered like liquid stone as Ryan and Lyra moved deeper into the hidden heart of the blue moon. Each step echoed softly, the air warm with a strange energy, their path lit only by a silver glow that pulsed ahead like a living heartbeat. Ryan kept his blaster ready, while Lyra walked with calm purpose, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They entered a vast chamber, where towering crystal pillars rose from the floor to the ceiling. Streams of light flowed through them like slow rivers. The chamber hummed with an ancient rhythm that seemed to match Ryan's heartbeat. He looked around in wonder, but his senses stayed. Sharp danger still lurked in the dark of space. Lyra approached the center, where a circular platform of black glass waited. As she stepped onto it, the crystals brightened, and a soft wind moved through the chamber. A holographic sphere rose above the platform, showing images of stars and galaxies. Rian saw human constellations among them, mixed with strange alien patterns. He whispered, "What is this place?" Lyra answered, "This is the sanctuary of the first bond. Here truths are revealed and the bond is sealed." The sphere changed, showing the moment Rian broke the chains. Silver light wrapped around his hands like fire. Lyra's voice carried a quiet power. "When you freed me, the ancient law awakened our spirits. Now our lives are tied. If we remain together, strength will grow. If we separate, darkness will spread." Ryan felt the weight of her words settle on his chest. Before he could speak, the chamber trembled, a deep vibration rolling through the floor. The holographic sphere flickered and faded. Ryan spun around, scanning the shadows. The distant roar of engines echoed from the tunnel. The enemy had found them. Lyra's eyes widened. They come. We must reach the Heartstone. She pointed to a narrow passage behind the platform. They ran through twisting halls where the crystals glowed brighter with each step. The sound of pursuit grew closer. Sharp metallic clicks and alien voices filled the air. Ryan gripped his blaster ready for a fight. The passage opened to another chamber where a giant crystal stood at the center, its surface alive with swirling silver light. Lyra approached it and placed both hands on the surface. The crystal pulsed and a wave of energy spread across the room. The enemy soldiers entered their armor, black and weapons glowing. Red Ryan fired first. Bright blasts cutting through the haze, the aliens returned fire-searing beams, striking the walls. Shards of crystal exploded into glittering dust. Ryan moved with quick precision, dodging blasts while keeping near Lyra. She stood, unmoving, her eyes closed. The crystal. Responding to her touch, one soldier rushed forward, but Ryan dropped him with a clean shot. Another leapt from the side, and a sudden shield of silver light flared around Ryan. The enemy beam bounced away. Lyra whispered without opening her eyes, "Our bond protects you. Keep them back a little longer." Ryan's heart raced. He fired again and again. The chamber filled with smoke and flashing light. The crystal in front of Lyra grew brighter until it was almost blinding. A deep tone vibrated through the floor and ceiling. The enemy soldiers hesitated as the energy pushed them back. Some shields failed and they stumbled. Lyra opened her eyes, now shining like twin stars. She said, "The Heartstone accepts our bond." A surge of power lifted her slightly off the ground. The silver light expanded, filling the chamber. The enemy screamed as the energy swept them away. Their weapons clattered to the floor and silence followed. The light faded slowly, leaving only a soft glow. Around Lyra, she stepped down, her face pale but steady. Ryan lowered his blaster, breathing hard. "What did you do?" She answered. "We are now one with the sanctuary. Its power flows through us, and our enemies will fear it." Before they could rest, a sudden alarm from Ryan's ship sounded on his wrist console. The enemy fleet above the moon was regrouping, larger and stronger than before. Lyra looked toward the tunnel, her voice calm but urgent. "We must leave now. The sanctuary has given us strength, but the battle beyond is only beginning." Ryan nodded, and together they turned back through the glowing halls. The crystals whispered with living light, guiding them toward their ship outside the moon. The dark fleet waited, and the next confrontation promised even greater danger. The blue moon surface lay silent as Ryan and Lyra stepped out from the glowing tunnel. Their ship waited on the ledge, its lights dim against the endless dark. Ryan checked the sky above and saw the enemy fleet forming a wide ring of black metal. Around the moon, their crimson running lights flickered like distant fires. He felt the pull of the sanctuary power still alive in his chest. But the sight of so many ships sent a cold wave through him. Lyra stood beside him, her silver hair moving. In the faint lunar breeze, she closed her eyes and the soft glow returned around her skin. She whispered, "They are gathering all their strength. We must move before they close the trap." Ryan guided her to the ship and they climbed inside the hatch. Sealing with a soft hiss, the control panel flickered to life and the engines hummed, but the scanner filled with hostile signals, more ships warping in every second. He plotted a course through the thinnest part of the blockade, but the path was narrow and filled with moving patrols. Lyra placed her hand on the console and a faint pattern of stars appeared across the screen. "Follow the river of shadows," she said. "It will lead us past their sight." Ryan frowned. He saw nothing but empty space. Yet, her voice carried certainty. He angled the ship toward a dark sector where no light reached. The scout ship slipped into the black. The stars behind them faded as if swallowed by mist. A strange quiet wrapped around the cabin. Even the engine hum softened. Ryan felt as though they drifted through a living void. Lyra whispered, "The river of shadows bends reality. They will not sense us if we stay within it, but we must not break the path." Suddenly, a harsh static filled the comms. Enemy signals cut through. A voice sharp and cold: "Return the royal blood or be destroyed." Ryan tightened his grip on the controls and remained silent. The voice repeated the threat, then faded, replaced by a new sound. A low pulse like a heartbeat echoing through the hull. Lyra, eyes widened. "That is the call of the ancient hunters." She said, "They send the dark sentinels to follow our bond." Before Ryan could ask, the ship trembled. A ripple of dark energy passed through the cabin. Sensors flickered with strange readings. Shadows. Outside twisted into long shapes moving like predators in the deep. They were not ordinary ships but creatures of void energy drawn by the power that joined. Ryan and Lyrarian pushed the engines harder. The ship glided through the dark river while the sentinels followed their outlines, shifting like smoke every time he looked straight at them. They vanished, but their presence pressed on his mind. He felt their cold hunger reaching for the bond that tied him to Lyra. The path ahead narrowed. Between two massive asteroid shards, Ryan guided the ship through the tight space while the sentinels swirled closer. Lyra stepped to the viewport, her hands glowing. She began to sing a low melody. The same sound he had heard when he first found her. The sentinels slowed their movements, twisting around the ship as if listening. The melody grew stronger. The shadows outside shivered and broke apart. Fading into dust, Ryan looked at her, amazed. She lowered her hands and whispered the old song. Drives them away, but it weakens me. We must reach the starlit gate before they gather again. He checked the charts. The gate, a hidden jump corridor, lay near a dying red sun just beyond the blockadias. They neared the edge of the dark river. The enemy fleet loomed ahead, black cruisers lined in formation, their weapons hot with red light. Ryan powered down to a silent drift, hoping the cloak of the Shadow River still hid them. But a sudden flash lit the void. A massive warship emerged directly in their path, its cannons already aimed. Alarm screamed through the cabin. The ship shook as a warning shot grazed their hull. Ryan gritted his teeth and angled for a desperate climb. But three more cruisers appeared above, cutting off the escape. Lyra moved to his side and placed her hand over his on the controls. Her eyes glowed bright with fierce light. Together, she said, "Our bond can open the gate now, but we must risk everything." The warship charged its main cannon, the red glow flooding the darkness. Ryan met her gaze for a single breath, then nodded. She began to chant words older than the stars. Silver light flooded the cockpit. The ship vibrated with a deep force, and the space before them tore open into a swirling ring of blue fire. The starlit gate. The enemy fired a blinding beam that raced toward them. Ryan pushed the thrusters to full. The scout ship leapt forward. The beam grazed their side, throwing sparks and alarms. But they shot through the blue fire as the gate closed. Behind them, leaving the enemy fleet lost in the empty black silence, filled the cabin. Only the soft breath of Lyra and the steady beat of Ryan's heart remained. They had escaped for now, but the next place on the other side of the gate held its own unknown dangers. The scout ship burst from the starlit gate into a silent region of deep space. The stars here burned a pale silver, and a wide gas ring shimmered like a frozen ocean. Ryan steadied the controls as the blue fire of the gate faded. Behind them, his heart still raced from the escape alarms, calmed one by one, leaving only the soft hum of the engine. Lyra stood near the viewport, her silver eyes bright against the endless dark. She whispered, "We have crossed beyond the known maps. This is the realm of the old alliance where few dare to travel." Ryan scanned the sensors. Nothing familiar appeared, only strange magnetic fields and echoes of distant energy storms. It felt like the universe itself held its breath. A faint pulse reached them like a slow heartbeat through the ship hull. Ryan adjusted the receivers. The sound deepened into a pattern, a call from somewhere ahead. Lyra closed her eyes and said, "The Guardians wait for us. They know our bond. They will test us." Ryan tightened, his grip on the controls, not knowing if Guardians meant friends or enemies. As they followed the pulse, a vast shape emerged from the glowing ring. An ancient station floated silent, its surface carved with symbols that glowed like moonlight. The design was both alien and strangely human, as if built by many worlds across ages. Ryan guided the ship toward a wide docking arch that opened without a sound. Inside the station, a soft silver mist drifted through a grand hall of crystal columns. The floor reflected their steps like calm water. Ryan felt a quiet pressure in the air, a presence that watched and waited. Lyra walked ahead, her movements graceful and sure until they reached a circle of light at the center of the hall. A figure formed from the mist, tall and luminous, its face a shifting pattern of stars. It spoke in a voice that echoed inside their minds. "You carry the bond of the first law. Do you understand the weight of your choice?" Ryan hesitated, but Lyra stepped forward and said, "We accept the path." The figure turned its starry gaze to Rian. "Do you give your life to the bond knowing it binds your fate beyond death?" Rian met the endless light without fear. "Yes," he said. The figure raised its arms and the hall filled with a low music like the sound of distant oceans. Silver energy wrapped around Ryan and Lyra, lifting them gently from the floor. The figure said, "Your union awakens the ancient pact. The strength of human courage and the wisdom of the Silent will stand together." Suddenly, a sharp tremor shook the station. Warning lights flared. The enemy fleet had followed their trail through the gate. Ryan heard the distant roar of heavy engines. The figure looked upward and spoke. "They bring the shadow. But your bond has power beyond their reach. You must defend this place to seal the pacta." Great door opened, revealing a chamber of controls and weapons older than any starship. Rian and Lyra rushed inside. Crystal panels lit under their touch maps of the galaxy spun above them. The station core hummed, ready to awaken. Ryan took the helm as massive energy cannons aligned outside the station. The first enemy cruiser entered the ring of mist, red weapons blazing. Ryan fired the ancient cannons. Streams of silver light tore through, the darkness striking the cruiser and splitting it apart. More ships poured from the gate, but the station defenses moved with impossible speed, guided by the bond between Ryan and Lyra. Each shot met its mark, turning the void into a storm of fire. And silver hours passed in a blur until the enemy retreated, their fleet broken and scattered. Silence returned to the stars. The station music softened into a gentle tone. The guardian figure appeared once more and said, "The pact is sealed. The alliance of human and silent is reborn through your courage and your bond." Silver light filled the hall surrounding Rian and Lyra. Warmth flowed through them like living starlight. The figure bowed and faded into mist, leaving them alone in the quiet glow. Lyra turned to Ryan, her eyes soft with both relief and wonder. "Our worlds are safe because of what we chose together," she whispered. Rian looked at the endless stars beyond the crystal walls and felt the truth of their journey. He reached for her hand and held it as the station drifted in the silent galaxy. Their bond now eternal, carrying the hope of two civilizations into the future.